if you were a juror and had to decide right now, how would you go, guilty or not guilty, Terry Austin? You were in the courtroom all week.
Well, if I had to decide today and I'm sitting on that jury and I've heard the evidence thus far that the prosecution has put forth, I would say not guilty. And I certainly think that's where the jury is right now. They have to prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt. And there are multiple doubts in this case so far. Nothing I've seen, not the DNA so far, not the ballistics information, nothing I've seen so far has put Melly in that car with the and has him as
the chances of YNW Melly beating his case now appear to be very high, as his legal team is openly questioning whether the prosecution even knows what they're doing. In a recent development, a report revealed that the judge in the case once again stood up in frustration, clearly tired of the prosecution's arguments and visibly annoyed by the quality of the evidence being presented.
We say the difference is one is an orientation shot, this is this one, and then one is a close-up. If you show just the close-up so I can talk about the characteristics of that, there's no way for me to show where it is in the phone. I can say where it is, but I can't show it. So if you want an orientation, so we show where it is, and the closer so I can explain the characteristics of it, then I would say both pictures.
Today's trial session was significantly longer, focused entirely on the prosecution, presenting witnesses and experts to explain how the crime unfolded inside the car. However, based on the judge's reaction, it seems the prosecution's case may be lacking substance. At one point, the tension in the courtroom escalated when one of YNW Melly's lawyers shouted across the room, demanding, "What kind of evidence do you guys even have?" highlighting their growing frustration with the prosecution's approach.
Do you have any evidence to indicate this young man was involved in this?
Melly's own lawyer is visibly frustrated, having to sit through hours of what they consider baseless arguments from the prosecution. This growing annoyance was also echoed by the well-known rap lawyer, who pointed out that the prosecution's lack of solid evidence could very likely lead to another mistrial.
Big drama at the YNW Melly trial today, and I told people this was going to happen. They didn't want to listen to me. The judge, very upset that the courtroom camera and microphones are picking up whispers of the defendant's lawyers to each other, to the defendant. I also have raised issues. There's a photographer in there snapping away millions of photos of YNW Melly's face all day. There's a cameraman who zooms in on YNW Melly while he's having exchanges with his lawyers. Courtroom is a privilege. With our human eyes and our human ears, and our human time, we can see such things. But when you record with high sensitivity mics and zoom and you focus in on the defense team, that's not a privilege that you have. I bet the defense is going to use this to probably ask for another mistrial or add this to the long list of problems that they have with this trial and then ask for a mistrial.
With talk of a mistrial gaining momentum once again, YNW Melly's lawyers are presenting strong arguments that paint him in an increasingly innocent light. If a mistrial is declared, Melly would be released for the foreseeable future until the trial resumes. Adding to this possibility, the judge has announced that certain evidence will be excluded due to the prosecution's violation of discovery rules, a point also highlighted by the well-known rap lawyer.
YNW Melly trial, more missteps from the prosecution, this time the judge issuing a sanction. The sanction is the prosecution is not going to be allowed to use certain evidence. The reason? The prosecution failed to turn the evidence over in a timely manner. The defense had accused them of trying to plug up holes, and you can see the footage from the judge where the judge says, "Look, this is not the right thing to do." Ultimately, I don't know if this is a huge part of their case, this evidence that's being excluded, but it speaks to the issue that the defense attorney was talking about. Is this is a case. If you've got your evidence, go ahead and present it. The way the evidence is coming out, there's just too many missteps, too many technical mishaps.
This turn of events is likely to shock the entire internet, as the prosecution appears to be running out of evidence. In an effort to salvage their case, they're continuing to call more witnesses to the stand, hoping to uncover anything that could make YNW Melly appear guilty. However, this strategy is only dragging out the proceedings, causing the trial to last far longer than anticipated. Jurors have even begun to ask, how long is this going to take? A valid concern, considering that the average trial for a case like this typically spans 4 to 7 days. In contrast, YNW Melly's trial is now projected to stretch out for an entire month.
So the answer to this question has been because initially I thought the answer to this question was trial will last maybe 2 to 3 weeks, so sometime at the end of next week it's over, we get a verdict next week or maybe the week after. In fact, the judge said in open court this morning, a juror had asked the judge, hey, how long is this trial going to take? Can you give us some forecast so we can plan? And the judge said this, spoke to lawyers on both sides. They expect trial will conclude at some point by the end of July, meaning trial is likely to last all of this month, June. They're going to take a day or two off for July 4th. Then trial is going to last through all of July. You're talking about multiple weeks, multiple months. It has to be said.
The prosecution is running dangerously low on evidence against YNW Melly, a fact that's becoming increasingly clear as the trial progresses. In a recent development, the judge in the Melly trial ruled that undercover detective Danny Polo must remove his mask for the remainder of his testimony. This is the same prosecution witness who made bold claims about YNW Melly just last week, yet now finds himself under added scrutiny in the courtroom.
And they would quickly get checked. That happened to those 2 kids. I don't know how old they were. Those two guys that were claiming money, Island Boys. Fun haircut.
Okay.
Yeah, they were claiming members of the which is a set of and they quickly got checked by almost every that can find them on social media. They got pinned, and they then went to forgiveness and apologize.
Did you find any evidence whatsoever of any recanting or apologizing by Mr. Demmons in the records that you reviewed?
There's no recanting, there's no apologizing, there's no one calling out Mr. Demmons for being fake.
That same man, Detective Danny Polo, is now required to remove his mask in the courtroom. When YNW Melly saw him reveal his face, his reaction suggested that he recognized him from the streets. It appears that Polo may not be as undercover as previously believed, with reports indicating he's part of a street team himself, raising even more questions about the credibility of his testimony.
Yes, sir. We open your mask.
Yes, sir.
Over. State protecting our relation with previous issues.
Ironically, after removing his mask and continuing with his testimony, Detective Danny Polo, who was brought in to support the prosecution, ended up making YNW Melly appear more innocent without even realizing it. Despite his role as a key witness for the state, his statements seemed to unintentionally weaken their case rather than strengthen it.
Now, Melly's defense is now entering into cross-examination of Danny Polo. And what Danny is admitting on the stand, now Danny Polo had admitted that YNW Melly was actually being recruited by 2 different sets. And based off of the text message thread between the different individuals trying to recruit Melly, Melly was not replying. Melly stated weeks later that he was so busy doing radio interviews and shows that he just didn't have time to reply. And if you go back and read the text messages, those recruiters were basically begging Melly to reply back. And he didn't. Because Melly was an up-and-coming rapper who had a ton of money and ambition, and any of these different groups would love to have him under their roster. Because Melly wasn't interested in being the time, he was being labeled as somebody who was false flagging. It's possible that it was Shine that did the drive, all because Melly didn't want to be a part of their group.
As the trial progressed, one key point began to resurface. The drive-by theory that YNW Melly has maintained since day one might actually be back in play. This shift suggests Melly may have been telling the truth all along. A viral report even highlighted how weak the prosecution's case has become, stating that it relies on minimal evidence, with irrelevant messages that reveal no motive and make no mention of the crime, essentially calling the entire argument pure nonsense. Meanwhile, the trial grew even more intriguing, as online legal analysts began pointing out something significant. Due to the lack of concrete evidence, Melly's defense team appears to be subtly shifting the focus toward proving his innocence by implying that YNW Bortlin could actually be the guilty party. One lawyer even discussed this theory during a televised interview, adding another twist to the already complex case.
If you were a juror and had to decide right now, how would you go, guilty or not guilty, Terry Austin? You were in the courtroom all week.
Well, if I had to decide today and I'm sitting on that jury and I've heard the evidence thus far that the prosecution has put forth, I would say not guilty. And I certainly think that's where the jury is right now. They have to prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt. And there are multiple doubts in this case so far. Nothing I've seen, not the DNA so far, not the ballistics information.
Curious about why lawyers are now claiming that YNW Melly no longer appears guilty, I decided to dig deeper. If Melly isn't the one responsible, then who is? Within just 30 minutes of the first day of the trial, reports surfaced revealing that YNW Bortlin had gunpowder residue on his hands and had changed his clothes before dropping off Sack Chaser and Juvie at the hospital. Notably, Bortlin and Melly were the only two people in the vehicle with the victims. Adding to the suspicion, a video was shown in court where Melly's own lawyer presented evidence to the jury that Bortlin had lied to federal investigators, further fueling speculation about who may truly be at fault.
And his lies, those were his words. Cortland Henry shows up at Memorial Hospital, Miramar. You don't see him sitting there, but where you will see him sitting is in the driver's seat of the car, somebody's car, riddled with bullets. When he shows up with a change of clothing, change of shirt, powder residue on his hands, evidencing that he had discharged a firearm. And he lies. He lies about where the incident occurred. He lies about how it occurred. And he lies about not having the phone. I think it was Miss Bradley herself who said everybody had the phone in the pocket, not Cortland Henry. There were 3 phones.
YNW Melly's attorney is now suggesting that YNW Bortlin may have had a much greater impact on the case than previously realized. Even the well-known rap lawyer has confirmed that it was indeed Melly's attorney who brought this crucial point to light, raising serious questions about Bortlin's role in the situation.
We have had an absolute shell being dropped by the defense, a mic drop moment. The lead attorney on Melly's defense team telling the jury that Cortland Henry lied to police when he showed up at Memorial Hospital that morning. He lied about what happened. He lied about not having a phone on him. That Cortland Henry, this is according to Melly's attorney, that Cortland Henry showed up at that hospital with a change of clothes on, and that Cortland Henry showed up at that hospital with powder residue on his hands.
An interview where YNW Bortlin lied to the feds was shared with the jury, further highlighting his significant impact on the case. YNW Melly's lawyer also revealed that Bortlin had brought a change of clothes to a recording studio at 4 in the morning, which raised further suspicion. This behavior added another layer of doubt, and the interview of Bortlin lying to federal investigators only strengthened the case against him.
And I'm driving, ducking for my life, trying to make sure I don't get hit. And you telling me, what you telling me about this? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. I'm driving. I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be worried about it.
I know it's not for you to worry about, but if you tell me it happened there's got to be some evidence there. There's going to be broken glass, just like there's broken glass over here when you guys open the doors and stuff like that. Okay, there's going to be broken glass over there when the windows got shut out. There's going to be casings from the people at your car. Okay, there's going to be evidence over there. Okay, right now, there's nothing. Kind of think I know what happened because I got information.
This has led many to believe that YNW Melly is attempting to shift the blame onto YNW Bortlin in order to secure his own release. As the trial progressed, more evidence emerged showing that Bortlin had firearm residue on his hands. Forensic scientists involved in the case revealed that Bortlin, the co-defendant, tested positive for gunpowder residue, further fueling suspicions and adding weight to the theory that he might be the one responsible.
So the right hand of proton Henry contained 0 particles characteristic of pot residue and two component particles. And the left hand contained 1 particle characteristic of pot residue and 1 two-component particle.
And can you explain to us what that means?
Basically, overall, there was pot residue present on the parts.
As the trial progressed, it began to feel more like a YNW Bortland trial than a YNW Melly one. With each prosecution witness who took the stand to try to implicate Melly, nearly all of them ended up doing the opposite. This shift became even more apparent when an FBI agent specializing in cell phone data took the stand. During the testimony, YNW Melly's lawyer questioned the agent about the analysis conducted on Melly's phone at the time of the crime, further complicating the case for the prosecution.
Based on that information, you can't really tell the court precisely which locations and stones are falling within you.
One of the limitations of cellular analysis is that you can only say a general area of the device in time.
Alright, so even with the general analysis, all of the stuff that we've gone through for about 4 or 5 hours, at the end of the day, you can never give them that.
True.
And could you tell if somebody was walking around a car with a phone? Would you be able to tell that? So it'd be your testimony that this phone, 9807, could be from here to here, correct?
Yes.
And what was the distance?
While the FBI agent shared important information, it wasn't until the next witness took the stand that YNW Melly's innocence seemed even more apparent. A DNA specialist was called to review the DNA evidence from items found at the crime scene, including those recovered from the Jeep they were all driving. The analyst confirmed that YNW Melly's DNA was not found on several key items, further supporting the argument that Melly may not have been involved in the crime.
We're going to item number 22. The swab from the Gucci sandals. We're able to compare the profile from Mr. Jennings as opposed to the profile developed from those sandals.
I did when he was excluded.
The stain on the front of the t-shirt, item number 23. We're able to compare Mr. Jennings' profile to that.
I did a comparison when he was excluded.
What about item number 24? That's having a stain of the rear of the t-shirt.
Comparison to done when he was excluded.
Okay, then on item number 25, the swab stain from the Air Jordans.
Again, the exclusion.
Going on to item number 26, the swab from the yellow jacket.
An exclusion as well.
And in terms of the item number 27 and 28, the swabs at the Gatorade office. What were the results on them?
Those were both exclusions.
However, YNW Melly's DNA was found on the car door handle, which seems quite obvious given that everyone watched him get into the vehicle. This piece of evidence, while not surprising, doesn't necessarily imply his involvement in the crime itself, but it does highlight his presence at the scene.